creates an impact to groundwater is an activity associated with the construction of the conveyance facilities. And the conveyance construction they call temporary, but temporary for them is 9 to 10 years, okay? So that's your temporary impact. And the biggest thing, like I said, is this dewatering that will occur. According to their EIR, it's going to lower the groundwater levels somewhere between 10 and 20 feet. It looked like the higher 20 feet was more down where in the South Delta, where the other forebay is. But again, they haven't done a lot of actual studies yet. They're making their best professional, I think, judgment on some of this. Around where you see those facilities, there's wells, dewatering wells, okay, every 50 to 75 feet around the perimeter of every intake, the tunnel alignment. There are like 12 to 15 ventilation shafts that go along. They have to dewater those, so even all along the alignment. But all of the facilities up here, when you think about the 3 intakes and even the smaller forebay, they all have extensive dewatering that occur until they have enough of the project built that they don't have to do that. And that's why those cofferdams, that's part of the dewatering, so part of that river even will be dewatered. But again, because all of our folks are on well water, this is going to be a serious issue. They also may include some cutoff walls and some other things that may end up creating some additional impacts to the groundwater, but they don't really know the locations of some of those. They just throw it out as a possibility. Again, I throw out that the groundwater level changes in August. That was the greatest change that the EIR was stating. And of course, irrigation might be at a peak level at that point. Go ahead. As we mentioned, all these are tied together. And the homes are on domestic water supply, so is the municipal and ag water sometimes. And this includes communities of Clarksburg, Cortland, Freeport, Hood, Ileton. And I will say, it's hard to say whether Clarksburg, it's across the river, but again, they're going to be doing some in-river dewatering. So it's hard to say just how much that will be. On the next page, it talks about this zone of influence, actually it's a radius of influence, sorry. They've identified it as being 2,600 feet from around one of those dewatering wells, but I tried to count and do I'm not good at math, I tried to do math of trying to figure out how many miles it is, and how many wells if you're doing 50 to 75 feet apart, and it's literally thousands. That would be installed if you're doing them that close together. So I think that bubble, if you will, potentially could get larger, but that's what you'll see around every single one of those. And as you see, it says domestic and municipal wells could experience significant reductions in yield and may no longer support existing land uses. So go ahead. And if the monitoring says that those domestic wells is unable to meet their pre-existing or planned use, they have 3 options to ensure that the supplies are maintained for the homes. Install sheet piles. So again, you're going to try and prevent when they're doing the dewatering from getting to your well. They put that sheet pile to protect your well. Or deepen your wells, or secure potable water supplies from off-site sources. Ag supplies are a little bit different. They were much more, like I would say, definitive that for domestic water supply, they were just going to find a way to make sure to find replacement water. For ag supply, it was a choice that if we can, we'll get you another source, but we may just compensate you instead. So you may just get compensated instead of having water. And as you can see, if the ag wells, it's if feasible. Same thing for deepening the ag wells. They did throw out that they would have velocity dissipation features such as rock or grouted riprap. It's not an official mitigation, but when you're dewatering, you're sucking water out from the ground. Now you got to discharge it somewhere. Okay? So they will be discharging all of that removed groundwater that is being removed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years. into either the river directly or into drainage systems that are nearby. So for the river anyway, they're saying we may have to put in rock because we're going to have increased velocities if we're discharging a lot of groundwater there. Go ahead. But even these impacts remain significant because, as I said, the replacement water supplies may not meet the pre-existing demands or planned use demands of affected parties. Particularly for the agriculture, they were just treating that a little bit different. So this is one of the significant and unavoidable impacts that are one of the 48 impacts that I was describing. For those that were there in July, these are what I call the sorry Charlie mitigations. If we can, we will, but if not, sorry Charlie. Some of the problems though, like I said, deficiencies, again, you saw that there was just a lot of studies they haven't done. They don't really know how many wells. When I asked them, okay, that water that you're discharging from dewatering, you said you're going to exceed the capacity of some of our existing drainage systems, but you're going to use them. Could you tell me which ones, how many, the severity, the duration? And they just, again, have not done those studies, so they couldn't be specific enough to give me any locations or duration or, frankly, the amount of water at any of these locations, or tell me how many locations there were going to be. But again, just think about how many thousands of wells if they're 50 to 75 feet apart. That's going to be a lot. And again, it's based on, it's discretionary. There's going to be some decision making on their part. The 2,600 foot radius is a good example. What if you're 2,601 feet? Do you get mitigated or not? There will be discretion, on a lot of these things that they decide. And that number could change, like I said. On one hand, they were very clear that we will figure out how to find replacement water. But the problem is I was trying to put myself in your shoes. I live in West Sac, so even though I'm in the Delta, we are not on well water. But I thought, okay, well, if I'm a house and my water is not running anymore and I can't take showers or do laundry or what have you, how are you replacing it? Is it coming in a truck? And who gets to decide how much water you're replacing? Are you going to look at what my average use is? And that's why I say some of that discretionary stuff. How are they going to decide? How frequent is your water going to be delivered? How is it going to be delivered? I have no idea, other than they're very sure that they're going to make sure to deliver water to you. But, particularly if it comes to a house, I would be very worried about that. The other thing that I really didn't identify is, if you think about those three options for the domestic, one of them was, okay, well, we might drill a deeper well for you so that you can access the next aquifer. The problem is, all of you know, is if that happens, that would be nice. It sounded like they were going to pay for it. But who's going to pay that monthly bill for that extra pumping? Because as you all know, that costs more, and that's a forever cost put onto you. Was not identified.